Hello my horror movie peeps, thank you so much for clicking on this video, even though I am still pissed off at Pinhead himself for making me put every single one of his pins on that dang mask. And don't even get me started on trying to put it on after you got those pins inside. Nevertheless, we finally have here our first official trailer for the new Hellraiser movie coming to Hulu October 7th. Like, we were literally like 2-3 weeks away from this movie and we hadn't got a trailer. I was so worried that this thing was complete and utter garbage because they just were not showing us anything. But after having seen this first trailer, my worries have settled down. I'm actually pumped and excited for this thing. It looks like a genuinely good, or at least passionately made, Hellraiser film. So what I'm going to do here for you guys is giving you my trailer breakdown, pointing out things you might have missed, speculating to what we can expect to see, even cluing in some people who aren't that big of Hellraiser fans but are maybe interested to see this movie. Because you know what? I don't blame you. For the longest time, up until this year actually, I did not like Hellraiser. Like, I appreciated the Pinhead design and the vibe of the movie, but I never got into them. But then forcing myself to go back and rewatch those first movies and then see the sequels I hadn't seen, I've actually grown to see why people get really into this series, and I see a lot of things in here that make me excited for what they're about to offer the fans. So be sure you leave me your thoughts down below, whether you are a Hellraiser fan or a non-Hellraiser fan. Does this interest you? What do you think of the new Pinhead? Really curious to hear from you guys. Okay, so with the new Hellraiser movie, this is essentially sort of a reboot. For the longest time, it was being called a remake, but the director came out and said this is not a remake of that original Hellraiser movie. It's going to be its own story set in the Hellraiser universe, whatever that means, because we do got a new Pinhead, so it can't exactly be the same universe. And the story we're going to be following this time around centers on a character named Riley, who is a drug addict and is trying to work off that addiction when she comes across the infamous puzzle box that'll release the Cenobites and Pinhead himself. And let me tell you, it didn't take long for me in watching this trailer to already become automatically hyped for this thing. For one, the things they're doing with the Lament configuration, the actual puzzle box, I am just getting geeked out about. One of the major annoyances I had in rewatching a lot of these Hellraiser sequels is they have no imagination with this puzzle box. Like, this puzzle box sometimes just stays like this, people rub it around like it's some sort of genie lamp, and Pinhead appears. Here, the Lament puzzle box has been taking yoga classes because it is doing all sorts of poses and stretches that got me geeking out. Like this scene specifically here of Riley messing with the puzzle box, spinning the dial. In all the Hellraiser movies, this dial almost never spins. It's literally just a little rub and it starts electrifying and Pinhead comes. Out of the box, that is. I cannot tell you how happy I am that this actually feels and seems like an actual puzzle box with a ton of different mechanisms, shapes, configurations. Like, yes, thank you for that attention to detail. The other thing I was noticing when watching this is just how much the movie feels like it's going back to Hellraiser 2. Since we know the main character is a drug addict and trying to get over that, it looks like they enter themselves into a rehab. But not just any rehab, it looks like a specialized one that is owned by a sadistic person named Mr. Voight. The director had this to say about his character. He says, his character is what would happen if an elite 1%er was also an educated occultist and became obsessed with all the possibilities surrounding the Lament configuration. He's educated, he's sinister, he's an important human component of the moral fabric of Hellraiser. And that reminds me a lot of the character that we got in Hellraiser 2, Dr. Channard. This was also somebody that was wealthy, educated, a doctor in a hospital that was obsessed with everything involving the Lament configuration and wanting to explore that world. He was even abusing his own power and using his resources of the hospital to put in some inmates as part of his rituals in order to bring back Julia, a character from the first two movies. And I think that same situation is going on here. This guy is using his money, wealth, and power to lure in people who are drug addicts because they most likely have no family or friends because of the life they lead. At least that's something I could see a 1% or elitist believing, not valuing their lives and thinking they're just expendable. And through doing this, it looks like he's learned so much about the Lament configuration and what it's capable of doing, and that's why I'm also really excited for this movie, because they're finally going to be exploring some of the things this box is capable of, because throughout the sequels, it does so many different things that it just breaks its own rules from movie to movie. But here it looks like they'll actually be tackling that, because we get a shot here where one of the characters finds this sort of handbook where Mr. Voight has been kind of jotting down all the details involved with the configuration, showing off what happens when you solve it in different forms. We have one marked here for life, we have one marked here for knowledge, one for love, another one titled sensation, resurrection, and what I believe says power. That bottom configuration should look really familiar because it is Leviathan, the shape we not only saw in Hellraiser 2, but the god that seizes over the labyrinth that we also get a glimpse at in this trailer. So it looks like our characters will be pulled in to this underworld hell and encountering that otherworldly being Leviathan that is essentially the ruler and controller of the Cenobites. And well, speaking of the Cenobites, we do get a look at a brand new one that'll be introduced into this movie that we do know their name, the Masqué or Masqué. This is a brand new Cenobite that we got a look at a couple weeks ago through some promotional images. The director had this to say specifically about this new Cenobite with, "The Masqué is one of my favorite Cenobites, and it's just a tease of really what's to come as far as the Cenobites are concerned." Another reason for Hellraiser fans to get absolutely pumped for this. In rewatching these movies and going back, the thing I consistently found enjoyable, fun, and campy was the Cenobites, man. Just those wicked designs and also their transformations. When a Cenobite transformation scene happens, I am one happy horror camper. Like, Pinhead and other characters are cool, but when a Cenobite gets their time to shine or given a little bit of backstory, I think it's just such a fun part of the world. Even more when, as you watch the movies, you come to realize that the shape and the form these Cenobites take have a lot to do with their personalities or what they do in life. Like, don't get me started on the DJ from Hellraiser 3 that got turned into a CD Cenobite. Like, some of y'all hate that. I think that's so funny and cool. So it makes me wonder, with this one named Masqué and the look it has with almost just like a missing face, what was this particular person doing when they were human that gave them this appearance? The director also promised a whole bunch of other Cenobites, and we do get a look at one of them here with a gnarly design. They're definitely going with a different look than we're used to with these Cenobites, but I don't mind that. Keeping it fresh and new is fine. Plus, they got rid of a lot of the leather. I guess leather is out now in the Hell world, because we do get at least one classic Cenobite coming back, and that's Chatterer, who does look slightly different and not as leathered up as he used to be, but hey, he's still chatting his teeth, and that's all that matters. But now let's talk about the biggest thing that'll be the topic of conversation amongst Hellraiser fans and new fans of the franchise, the new Pinhead. So the new Pinhead is being played by Jamie Clayton, who I had reservations, not because it was a woman becoming Pinhead or anything, just because Doug Bradley is so iconic in that role. Even me, someone who wasn't a big fan of Hellraiser, knew Pinhead was still terrifying. That voice, that presence, it's one of those things that is like really hard to try and fill the shoes in, and I just didn't know if they were going to be able to pull that off. And from what I've seen so far in this 2-minute trailer, count me sold, because I not only dig the new look of this Hellraiser, again, they've gotten rid of a lot of the leather. It looks like they're just going with the kind of pale white skin with the exposed red underlayer skin, which I think does look creepy and give it a new look, but it's the voice here that sold me. It's not exactly a replication of Doug Bradley's, but it is still that deep, echoey, haunting voice that I would be terrified to hear.
What is it you pray for?
This for sure gives me Leader of the Cenobites vibes. I have no worries now about their performance. I think Jamie Clayton will knock it out of the park here. All that's left to worry about is if this plot is actually cohesive. Does it make sense? Will these characters be likable? Are those new up-and-coming Cenobites actually going to be a fun part of the movie? Or is this just going to be another stinker in the long line of stinker Hellraiser movies? For me, after rewatching some of these films, I don't think it can get much worse than some of those sequels. This looks actually good because it feels like the person making this movie actually did their homework, actually did their research, and is interested in expanding that world and lore. So yeah, I'm sold on this. I can't wait for the movie to come out. I will be doing the review of the series for you guys on the channel very soon here. Just got to get finished through the series. So stay tuned here on the channel for those. But I want to hear from you guys. What did you think of this trailer? What sold you? What didn't sell you? Anything, everything. Be sure and like, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.